All right, folks, brace for impact. Noam signs law banning transgender athletes from female sports teams. Great. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem on Thursday signed a bill into law that bans transgender athletes from competing on girls' and women's sports teams. This bill has been an important priority for a lot of the people behind me, Noem said in a press conference. I don't care about reading the rest of that. The new law will apply to all state-accredited schools in South Dakota. So again, this is the thing we're talking about here. We are talking about schools. We're not talking about the fucking Olympics, bro. We're not we're talking about like fucking middle school, motherfucker. Like, I mean, seriously, why would you fucking divide like sports into fucking these strict categories in fucking middle school, right? Like, it's so ridiculous. And again, 99% of people, if they talk about the transgender sport debate, have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They've got no idea what the fuck they're talking about. You know what? And the other thing, again, for schools, who fucking gives a shit? Who fucking cares? And I wonder if this specifically bans trans men from participating in sports with cis women. Because a lot of the times when these bills happen, what you see is you see trans men participate in the girls category because they're girls and they completely destroy everyone, right? So again, like, there is no solution here that has anything to do with what the only solution to the sports question. I don't even know why the fuck this is how far right our fucking conversation is in this fucking country, is that they're like basic human rights for people are based on whether or not they're useful for sports or something, right? Like what? Like, I just, like, it's fascinating to me, right? But it's almost like we had the same conversation in, like, the 1940s and 50s when it comes to black people in baseball and so forth. But hey, that's a whole different kind of story. So again, how you have equal and fair sports. First of all, it's irrelevant for schools. It's irrelevant. Sports are about having fun. The idea that people, like, I think that there's a huge problem with grooming kids, not to be transgender, but to be sports freaks, right? Think about all the fucking damage to your body that playing, like, football in fucking middle school will do. You know, think about these, there are these kids that are lied to in middle school and high school thinking that they can get in the NFL, NBA, MLB, or whatever the fuck. They're groomed into thinking that if they train hard enough, maybe they'll make it to the big leagues. That's fucking grooming. That's fucking grooming. Maybe you'll be an Olympic swimmer if you train really hard. Sometimes, right, that's possible. But most of the time, they end up getting disappointed and they're groomed their entire childhood, and they don't get to have fun because they're constantly trained. So I have a huge problem with sports in general. The only answer to these kinds of questions is, one, make sports be about fun. I don't give a fuck about your fucking Olympic swimming gold medals. Everyone's body is different. Everybody's body is different. Me, I am not going to be able to get an Olympic swimming medal no matter how hard I try. If I were to spend 10 fucking years, I would never be able to become an Olympic swimmer. Why? Because my genetics, right, and the way that my body functions is just not capable. I'm not capable of doing that. Everyone's body is different. So if you want to have sports, the only sports that matter, in my opinion, are the best in the world. If you're the best in the world at something, okay, that's cool. Also, you know what else? I don't give a shit. I'm gonna go play kickball for fun. I'm gonna go play fucking hopscotch, motherfucker. Again, this whole, like, all sports, everyone has to have their own category is fucking stupid garbage, right? Like, the only thing that matters is who's the fastest in the world. But guess what? It doesn't matter that much, right? Because sports should ultimately be about having fun. It should be about learning about who your teammates are, learning about your community, having a good time with the other people. It shouldn't be about, like, oh, I hate that other school because they beat me in a sports team. Like, I mean, like, this whole thing is just, it's so ridiculous. It's so cringy. And this is just, like, their way of, like, you know, targeting transgender people. Again, these are kids. These are, like, middle schoolers. Who gives a fuck about middle school fucking kickball, motherfucker? Who gives a fuck about kickball? But okay, you want to make sports about competition and everyone gets a fair chance? Well, first of all, that's not how it works. Having things divided into men's leagues and women's leagues, that's not fair. How is that fair? There's no fairness there. We see in a lot of instances where cisgender women, right, that means they were born and raised as women and are women, right? They are banned from women's sports because they have too high testosterone levels naturally, right? They do no, like, they maybe, I don't know, maybe they eat too much red meat. I don't know, right? But it's like, you know, they are banned because they're too trans, even though they're cis. What? Their test levels are too high, but they're not trans, they're cis, but they're banned. Right? So what? Like, so it's like, obviously, the separating by gender doesn't do anything. It doesn't accomplish the goal, right? The only way to actually make things fair would be having evaluations. Let's say you take a test and you get put into a specific class or a specific league, and, you know, let's say you train a little bit, you could then get replaced into another class or league. That's the only way to make it fair, is to have evaluations and tests and training, right? We can do this for everything else. We can evaluate people on other things. Why can't we do it with sports? It's extremely easy. So again, this isn't about fairness. This isn't about promoting equality. This is about bigotry. This is about attacking people that are trans because they can get away with doing this a little bit more. So first it starts out with the bathrooms and the sports. You can't have a trans person use the bathroom. What? Trans people aren't allowed in the bathroom? Are we supposed to just get uromycetitis poisoning and die, motherfucker? What the hell are you on about? Trans people aren't allowed to use the bathroom? Now we're not allowed to play kickball? Like, what? What? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It really makes no sense. So I don't give a shit about anything else about what this says. But again, like, the idea, like, conservatives argue that transgender athletes may pose unfair physical advantages over cisgender athletes. Okay. In the same way that someone who's like 6'5" has an advantage in basketball over someone who's 4'9". Should we have, like, legislation to ban tall people from sports? I don't know, just have separate categories based on certain characteristics. No. But let's have a category. Let's just, like, draft the law to ban anyone over the height of 5 feet and 2 inches. They should be banned from basketball because we got to keep it fair, right? We got to keep it fair by banning certain people that may or may not, usually, like, 80%, 90% of the time, they have no advantage in any capacity, right? But let's ignore that part just for the sake of argument, right? Like, I just, like, what? Right? I'm just like, this whole fantasy. While transgender advocates argue that legislation would unfairly target students. And again, okay, so, we're going to have trans-only teams in middle school where there's only, like, maybe 2 trans kids, and that's a stretch, right? So, okay, you're going to have a trans sports team that's just going to be, like, one person throwing the ball and the other person catching the ball and then throwing it back. Wow, great fucking sports team. Really good fucking job. It doesn't remind me of segregation at all, in any way, at all, right? Like, again, these motherfuckers are fucking ridiculous. They're stupid and they're dumb. And this whole thing, the transgender sport debate. Like, people view this as, like, this is an intellectual, philosophical query of our time. This is a modern quandary for the new era. Like, what the fuck are you on about, bro? You are on drugs. You are smoking some stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing. Like, again, like, the obvious solution to the transgender sports debate is to leave people the fuck alone and to stop taking sports so fucking seriously. If you really want sports to be as fair as possible, then yes, we can do that. Fine, whatever. Do fucking tests and evaluations and do, like, you know, like, every month or so, let someone run a fucking course, create a fucking, like, algorithm that determines what fucking category they're put in. That would be a lot more fair than just dividing things into men and women anyway. Let's be fucking honest. Let's be real with ourselves and each other, right? Everyone's bodies are fucking different, right? All women are not built the same. All men are not built the same. All people are not built the same. To say that someone who's, like, fucking, you know, 4'8" has the same, like, you know, ability to play basketball as someone who's, like, 5'9" just because they're both women, that's ridiculous. It's dumb. It's nonsense. It's fucking stupid, and it makes you look like a fucking dumbass, okay? But then the people argue, whenever I have this debate with someone, they're always go like, well, then that's creating too many categories. And it you know, it detracts from, you know what, women's records, right, as it is right now, that's already too many categories. Like, in my opinion, the only thing that matters is the fastest human. That's all I'm interested in. And guess what? I'm not interested in it at all. I'm not at all interested in it at all. But if I were to be interested in it, I would only care about the fastest person. Now, if my friend is, like, really good and they can run a lot, you know, and I'd be proud of them, yeah. But who cares about having, like, a 19th place medal? To me, it's just whatever. Sports should be about having fun. It should be about enjoying yourself. A lot of sports culture is hyper-capitalistic, hyper-competitive. And when you look, I've seen some documentaries on people that go into like, that are groomed to become like athletes, like from the age, like they will literally groom people from like ages of 6, 7, 8 into becoming these Olympic trainees, right? And their whole world, they literally spend like almost like, let's be honest, you're not really a conscious being until like maybe 5 or 6 years old. You're barely a conscious being at that point, but a little bit conscious, right? And then your parents start shoving this athlete bullshit, this Olympic bullshit down your throat. And then all of a sudden you're 18, you're 19, right? The only thing you've ever known is studying for the Olympics, and then you get fucking 5th place, and then your entire, like, there have been cases where people literally commit suicide because they feel like they've disappointed their whole fucking family, right? So again, we want to talk about grooming kids. Grooming kids is a lot more of a fucking problem with the Olympics and with sports than it is for fucking transgender people. Okay, so go fuck yourself with these stupid ass dumb fuck arguments. You're a loser. You're nothing but a loser. All of the people you talk to and agree with on this subject are losers. You're a fucking moron. You're a son of a bitch. And you're not, and on top of it all, you're not even smart. Like, people do this whole, oh, we're going to debate and go fight and have a conversation about a place of ideas. Like, you're not even smart. Like, you're not even good at the only thing that you try, oh, we want to debate and have a good open discussion. You're not even good at that. You're bad at everything. You suck. You're a loser. And no one cares about how much of a loser you are, motherfucker. I'm sorry. Like, someone who's trans and fucking 12 years old and is fucking having a hard time as it is being trans and 12 years old in this fucking hellhole world that we live in, they don't need to deal with your fucking dumb fuck ass, okay? I really, seriously, I mean, like, fuck. Could you imagine being fucking like a 15-year-old trans person in South Dakota? In South Dakota, you're a 15-year-old trans person. There's like 8 people in South Dakota and you're the one trans, right? Can you imagine how fucking hard that's going to be? As it is, and now we've got fucking state legislation that fucks your shit up even more. Like, fuck me. Like, holy shit, can't you just leave people the fuck alone? Why the fuck are they so interested in our kids, by the way? Why are these right-wingers so goddamn fucking interested getting their fucking hands all over our fucking kids? How the fuck do you even check, by the way, what gender a kid is? Let me know. I'm curious. How are you going to do this? How do you check a kid's gender? If a kid enrolls in a school, right, and let's say they've got a female name, let's say they've got everything about them, all their markers are female, let's just say, how do you check their gender? How do you make sure they're not secretly a man? Huh? I don't know. Maybe that you throw them in the locker room and tell them to undress, because that's what we do in this country. We literally have kids stand naked in locker rooms with adults standing over them. Does anyone remember that? I remember going to high school and being like told to undress. Now, personally, I never did it. I said, fuck that. I'm not doing gym. I refuse to participate. I'm not taking my clothes off in front of a fucking fat, ugly fucking... I shouldn't call someone ugly and fat, but I'm just describing my personal gym teacher he just happened to be fat, but also on another level that is distinct from being fat, also ugly and gross and disgusting. And he had like hair all over his chest, and he'd wear these fucking weird, like super tight, like clothes, even though like, you really shouldn't. It was like, why was I like asked to take my clothes off in front of that guy? That's fucking weird. So why are these people trying to, like, what is it? What are locker rooms? Like, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like, this fucking shit's crazy. These right-wingers love to touch our kids. They love to prey on our kids. They love to stare at naked kids. That's all they want to do. That's all they ever will do. Look at fucking Jim Jordan in Congress, right? He literally fucking covers up for like molestation in high school fucking gym classes, right? So this motherfucker, like, these guys are crazy. They're fucking crazy. They're absolutely crazy. Again, we live in a culture where like you're 14 years old and you have to take your clothes off in front of a big fucking sweaty fucking like hairy guy. Like, what the fuck? I never did that. I said no. I refused. I failed gym class. I refused. I said, fuck that shit. I'm going to stay. I'm not going to participate. If I have to take my clothes off in front of a fucking like ugly, like hairy dude who's like fucking like, like wet lips drooling at the thought, I'm not doing that. Fuck you. I'd rather fail and drop out than take my clothes off in front of an adult. It's forced molestation. In my opinion, it's forced sexual assault. If you've ever been to a high school in the United States of America and you are forced to take your clothes off in front of an adult, that is sexual assault, in my opinion. In this country, in order to get a high school diploma, you have to have man mandatory sexual assault to get a high school diploma in the United States of America. Have you ever, like, has anyone really stopped to think about this? Like, I don't know. I don't think about it often because I refused. I didn't do that. I refused, right? Because I was failing high school for other reasons. So I was like, this is the least of my concern. I'm not going to bother with that shit. But again, you ever think about that? In order to get a high school diploma in the USA, you have to have mandatory sexual assault. Like, you have to be sexually assaulted in order to get a high school diploma. That's fucking wild. That's crazy. But that's the world we live in, y'all. I don't know what to tell you.